That's such an interesting question that I've been asked before, Daniel, as well. But look, I think number one of all, I think, is discipline, right? I think that as an athlete, you learn very early on discipline. So, organization discipline, you know that you have to do the work and you have to do the practice and the work repetitively before you get a result, right? It's that delayed gratification, discipline. And then I thought of something else and it just escaped my mind, which will come back to me. But those would be the first two, I think, is discipline and delayed gratification for sure. I think that has made a big difference in career and business.
Mm. There's a theme around the world today that you can just do one thing. And I see these ads come up on my YouTube about ClickFunnels. Just one funnel can change the car that you drive, the house that you live in, the aircraft that you fly around the world in. And it's like there's just one thing. But as an athlete, we understand that there's many things. And I started my career as an athlete at age 14, and it took me all the way to age 26 to become the Australian champion. And it's not that I didn't have some wins along the way. I had some great wins. 3-time state champion, competed at the extreme games. But the thing that I really wanted took a lot of time. And it wasn't just the physical attributes. It was also the mental attributes. And I had a lot of fears, but I didn't want to talk about them. I didn't want to say I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of success. I don't want to beat my brother. All those things were dormant, but they really impacted my ability to perform. But I just couldn't talk about it. As you went through your career, how did the mindset component play a big role in connection with the physical component?
Yeah, I think the mindset probably played a bigger component than did the physical. Like the in comparison, like the physical's hard. You know you're going to have to do the hard work. You have to be able to confront that. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. I'd use it. I'd count to try and manage my mindset when I was in a lot of pain. Like you're hurting and you've still got to keep going because you've got to finish the job. I would count to distract my mind from the pain because I could count. But if I wasn't counting, all I was focused on was the pain. So I used many, many distraction methods along the way. But mindset's been a huge part. It's a huge part of being able to become excellent, to excel. And so often, you said you couldn't talk to anyone, right? That's the whole point of having coaches and things like that. Because so often we put our performance face on, our game face on for those people that, particularly if you compete or you're a business owner or you're a leader or whatever, we put our game face on, but underneath we're like drowning. That outlet, having that outlet is important beyond the physical outlet, but being able to manage that. So you've got to decompress that out of your head somewhere. And when I was Olympic weightlifting, one of the things I would use, Daniel, is I would use procrastination to my advantage. So people, if you can harness procrastination, I think it's a fabulous tool. It's just we often use it in the wrong way. So when I would compete, and there's always a lot of other people competing around you and a lot of emotion, but when you compete in Olympic weightlifting, you have to be very still in your mind because you've got 3 seconds and you've got a heavy weight falling on your head. You really got to get it right. So I would get to my chalk bowl, I'd chalk up my hands, and I would literally talk to my mind, and I'd say, thanks, but I'm leaving you here. I'll come back and get you later. Like I would converse with the craziness going on in my head to then procrastinate on that, right? Like it can wait. But my lifting or that performance, it couldn't wait. So I would use, a lot of tools like that. And I think the other thing too is learning how to lose, and come back from that, because you will, in sport, you lose more than you win. All the time. And I think it's the same. You talked about, this one ClickFunnel page. Yes, that is true, right? It is one ClickFunnel page, but you might have to go through 100 to find the one. And are you prepared to go through the 100 to find the one? Are you prepared to lose that much to find the one that wins? Because that's what it takes, that ability to build that resilience, those resilience practices within yourself, to know that you are going to lose more than you win, But I think it's the win that fuels you. Like you have to be so hungry for that win and know your internal why, know your goals. And often I'm talking to business owners, and I'm sure that you are as well, Daniel. And you ask people their goals, and they're like, I want to be successful. And I'm like, well, how are you going to know when you've hit that? What does that mean, right? So, and I think that channeling towards knowing where you're channeling your energy as well is a super useful tool. Hopefully, I've
Mm.
answered your question.
Mm. You mentioned something interesting about that's why we need coaches. When I was 15 and 16 and 17, there was people around who claimed to be coaches. And I would ask them, I'd say, what do I need to do to land this trick? And the advice was so general and vague. Just go big. Just huck it harder. Just throw it harder. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not even advice. Like, how do I do it? Give me the steps. Step 1, 2, and 3. How do I do it? It was so conceptual. These coaches had so many concepts, but they had so they didn't have the process. And so at age 16, I decided I've got to figure this out. And I ended up being the go-to coach. And I was interviewed in Water Ski's news magazine, and they asked me what was my special skill. And I said, well, I don't know. You better ask my brother. So my brother said he was a great coach. And I realized that what I could do as a coach is I could look at the trick from start to finish, not necessarily do it, but I could tell the rider exactly what they were doing right and what they needed to do differently. And after they made a few small improvements, came a big transformation. All of a sudden, they went from not being able to do the trick and crashing and burning to very shortly being able to do it right away and then win the competition. And I think the same is true for business. We ask people who appear to be coaches for advice, but it's so general and vague in nature. And even as an Olympic athlete, you've got to be sure that you're asking the right people. And if you just get those 1 or 2 nuggets of gold, apply it, get feedback, the transformation comes so fast.
100%. And I think what I've learned over time too is so often, like the first part of learning any skill is hard work, right? Like
Mm.
there's grunt work in that. There's it's time and it's those things and it's uncomfortable, and in that phase, like there's a lot of learning. But once you've got the basic skill set down, and things are running relatively right, and you're looking for that next level of improvement, it's such finite small things to change. It's the 1% rule, right? Like those little things, but those little things make the world of difference to your performance.
For me, I found that I was physically able to do my tricks, but I was almost mentally disabled and emotionally disabled. And I remember saying things to myself like, don't crash, don't let go of the rope, don't look down. And I started to feel that I was doing all those things. And I'd do it over and over again, and I would repeat the mistake. And it was so far out of my awareness until I found some good coaching and some good feedback. But before I got there was a lot of self-reflection.
Mm.
And what we used to do was we would take the video camera out onto the river with us, and we would film ourselves for hours and hours. Then we'd come home, we'd put it in the VHS player and play it for hours and hours and hours. And my mum would come into the room, aren't you guys sick of watching this? I'm like, Mum, I've got to figure this out. I've got to find a way to do it. And it was through self-reflection that I could start to see what I was doing right and then what I could do differently next time. And on my journey for coaching, I realized that when I started to teach it to somebody else, I learned it so much faster. And then I think in my 30s, I come across a quote, which is to teach is to learn twice. And for people who don't have a coach, you can actually start to self-reflect. And if you figure out these small improvements, they're going to be those 1%ers. It doesn't happen at 100% at a time. But those little 1%ers, and you go and teach it to somebody else, you start to realize, wow, I really know this stuff. That confidence comes through, that willingness to go again. Okay, well, I'm another step closer to that win. I'm another step further away from the loss, but I'm another step closer to the win. And that starts to rejuvenate that enthusiasm once again. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting another step closer.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And that philanthropic side of when there's so much gratification from helping others.
Mm-hmm.
there's a level where work it out for yourself so you know how to do it, and then teach someone else. And there's so much gratification to learn how do you do it, but there's some other level of gratification and for your own confidence in your own self when you can help someone else do the same.
And we've also got to find that drive. What is our driver? What is our passion? What is our motivator? And a lot of people do get stuck at money. So for people who are building businesses, what else do people really desire beyond the money?
Yeah, look, and I think again it comes down to the individual's values. Like knowing it's so important to, and I think that can be a very waffly term, and people can get quite stuck on what their values are, and spend way too long looking at that. We just got to look at what do you talk about, what do you read, what do you obsess over, what do you spend your time thinking about. Look at your calendar. What do you fill up your calendar for? You're soon going to learn what your values are.
Mm.
What is that thing that you long for? Or when you're in a conflict with something, where do you actually want to be when you feel conflicted? What do you want to be doing when you're feeling conflicted? Because that can certainly lead you to what value are you actually not paying attention to as well. And so from my experience, time is such a, you can't get that back. Money can come and go and you can earn more of it if you figure out the strategy and the tools and all of those and then learn how to scale it, right? But time, over and over again, all my clients, I want more time, I want more time. Obviously, yes, they want more money from their business too, right? Like they don't think that there are many people in business that don't want to earn more money. I have met them too, but no, not many. Is time, time and valuable time with the people they love and experiences.
Mm. For many years, one of my goals was to just keep doubling my hourly rate. So by the time I left corporate, I just wanted to do double, 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 double. And I was able to double the income many, many times. And what I really wanted from that was to have the opportunity to have more education, because I knew if I could earn more, I could invest more into myself. And if I could invest more into myself, I could increase that hourly rate for consulting, and then I could have more time off. And that's been my focus over the years. Earn as much as I can, double, 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 pay for more education, pay for more services and coaching, do more trainings, and then get more time off. And when I look at my diary these days, there's so much white space. And I know people say that white space in the diary is the devil. But for me, it's not by default, it's by design. Because the more white space I can put in my calendar, the more I can study. And so this morning before we met, I sat down and I studied for 3 hours. So instead of having to work and do, I'm doing my study. And what's that enabled me to do is to deliver my results in a third of the time. And it keeps getting faster. So when I meet my clients, they say, this is great value because what would have taken us 2 or 3 or 4 years to figure out, you can do it in less than a session. And that's one of my drivers and one of my passions. Got to double the income, got to reinvest it into education. And once I get there, then the free time comes. And what do we do with the free time? Well, this weekend we're going to go to Korea. We'll spend a week in Korea.
But that's those experiences, right? Because then you can use that time for experiences. But like you're talking about, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And I don't think you can go wrong when you're investing in yourself and you're increasing your knowledge base, because we, so often if you're not doing something or you're not achieving something, is it because you can't or you just don't know how? You don't have all of the steps in place, right? You have a missing piece of knowledge. And that one little missing piece of knowledge, when you get it, like off to the races you go. And then it's that, okay, well, you're then going to hit another break point of, now what? I don't know what to do next. I don't have all of the knowledge. So that knowledge seeking part, that curiosity, I think a curious mind is an important asset.
Beyond that journey of just the money, do people have to have all their motivators figured out, or will that change along the way?
I don't think. I think you have to have a motivator, because you've got to have something to get out of bed in the morning. I think some people have it all figured out and they do know. But I think if you're trying to figure it all out first, then that can stop you from taking any action, and then you may never figure it out. So you might need to iterate over it several times as you go different phases of your life. Those things can change. Like before I was a mum, my motivators were totally different. Became a mum, my motivators changed. Hit my 40s, my motivators changed again. I don't know, I'm not 50 yet, so I'll tell you when I get there. But I'm guessing there'll be some other level of change. And I deal with a lot of varying age people. It's like every X number of years, 17 years, 5, depends how fast people are moving. There's evolution, there's change. And I think that's a good thing.
I remember when I was transitioning from my corporate role, my first goal was to get experience. And it was just to coach as many people as I could. And I didn't care about a niche because I knew that if I could coach as many people as I could, I would figure out who I like to work with, what topics I like to work on. And then once I got that, and then my wife was involved in an aircraft accident, the motivation changed. We said, now we've just got to survive. So we had to make sure we survived. And we did that. And then we set another goal. We've got to now get money. So we got money, and then we got clients. And then we had to change again. We said, well, let's get business globally. So I chased the money around the world and the clients. And we did that. And then I got that and I said, you know what? I want to stay at home. And so my son was being born in 2017. And the next goal was get grounded, just stay at home. And that was beautiful. And it kept changing. But we're always clear on what we wanted on that part of the journey. So we're always satisfied. And even now that COVID has finished and my son is now 6 and I've done a really good job at raising him, I'm ready to travel again. Okay, what's the goal? Travel. So we're coming back full cycle of what we like to do. And we're happy that it changes. And that's important for us because my wife and I, you could describe it as us as discontented. We're never satisfied staying in one place, so we want to keep moving that target. Where other people just say, I don't want the target to move. And I think they've also got to realize that maintenance is also important as a goal. And as athletes, it's good to get to the top, but then you've got to figure out, how do I stay there? And for a lot of people, they don't realize that's okay because as athletes, it's good to maintain a certain level.
And it's easier to, actually, right? Like if you have, as a professional bodybuilder, if you stay in a maintenance mode, it's way easier. Because if you want to go again and you want to up level and you want to scale and you do decide to do that, you're not back at the beginning and then got 6 to 12 months work to try and get back to just base level. You are at a decent enough launch pad level to be able to go again, so you have more choices. An individual has more choices at that point if they've done the maintenance. And I think a person in maintenance, the one thing they need to be careful of is the world is changing around them. So to still continue to observe and analyze and not shut off to the fact that that is happening, because sometimes you can get caught with your pants down, right? Like not ready, and not still be observant enough to go, all right, well, maintenance might just have to finish right now because I might have to change something because everything else has changed. And I think if we can learn nothing from the last number of years, of what's occurred in the world, it is that. It is, does whatever your goals are, and if maintenance is that, but still be observant and still be looking at what is going on and future forecast, still have something out there so that you still are, that you are not caught out.
A lot of people are under stress. And as leaders, we're so busy taking care of others that we often don't express that we're feeling stressed. And we try to wear that mask. We masquerade that everything's fine for us, but we also need stress relief. What can business people do today for instant stress relief?
Yeah, so fastest, quickest, easy things people can do. Number one, get outside, right? Even if it's for 2 minutes, put your feet on the ground, preferably grass, but not everyone has grass around them, so just get outside. ideally in the sun. Sometimes that's not always possible either, depending on where you live, but get outside, move, right? Whether that be walk, run, stand there and do some squats, move the blood around, move the emotions around to dispel those emotions and get them out of your body, particularly high stress, right? You want to move the cortisol and the adrenaline out of your body so it's not sitting there causing you to be in that flight or fight state all of the time. Breathing is a great one. I love the idea. I like box breathing. I use it with my clients. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. No one has to know you're doing that, but you do. And it works really well to get more oxygen into your system, to calm your system down, like simple, quick strategies. Another one I've given a client recently, we call it lap for success. So business owner, very successful business, but huge team. If any of her or her team are getting super escalating, can't bring themselves down, lap for success. Okay, taking a lap for success. They literally lap the building and come back, right? Just to break it up and to give a gap between what's going on so they're not so reactive. And also some of my clients will do that so they can break up the difference between home life and work life. So there's that little gap for them to change hats, right? To go, right, work hat. Okay, hold on. Let me not take everything because what if you had a really bad start? Your kid didn't want to go to school and it's been a meltdown and now you got to work and now you got staff and, that those little tricks and tips are awesome to separate those moments. And then the other thing is I love brain dumping. Write it out. It's very cathartic to just get it out. And then my other one, I could go on for ages. So people can pick whatever they like. Count your wins. Write them down at the end of the day. How did you win? Because we know that success breeds success, and what you focus on grows. And even on those days where it's really hard, it's like you've got to be the best detective. Find something that went well, because something, maybe it was just you got up today, right? And now but you got up, good. Some people don't. So sometimes you've just got to be really, vigilant in finding how you've won in that day.